Hey, welcome to Northern Chris. Just going to do a quick tutorial on how I installed a trailer brake in a 2008 F150. And here you can see when it's finished, it's all installed, working as it should. So here we go. It's a Hopkins standard 4 brake controller. Nothing fancy, just the basics. It's all you need. You don't have to spend hundreds of dollars. This thing was about $50. I purchased brand new, and then I had to buy the wiring harness. This was about $20 on Amazon. It says it's OEM, should plug in directly to a tow package within an F150. So one thing I noticed right away was this would not plug into the brake controller. So that was a bit of a bummer. So now I have to modify it so I can work with the wiring harness I have and not have to do my own custom wiring harness. So what you want to do is pop out that little green tab that holds all the wires in place. Slowly, you just have to pry on it for a little bit. As you can see, I had some difficulty in it because I wasn't quite sure and I didn't want to break the plastic. So I have a small flathead screwdriver and I used a pick, and I just slowly picked away at them, and then one by one the wires did pop out. So again, just using each tool here, trying to figure out exactly how they unclip. It wasn't as straightforward as I thought. Switching back and forth between the pick and the flathead screwdriver, slowly prying on each one. Quite simple, it's just 4 wires, blue, white, red, and black. But in order for me to hook it up, I had to get the wires out. So I switched over to the wiring harness. This seems to be going a lot better. As you can see, it popped right off. So then I figured, I can just plug it directly into this end of the trailer brake. But then the wires weren't holding very well, so I knew I had to take the clip off on that side so I'd have a much better and secure connection. So again, flathead screwdriver, a pick, slowly pry on the clips, and they will eventually pop out. Just took a little bit of work. Just slowly picking at each one, and eventually they do become free. So the first one came up pretty easy. The next few took a little bit, but again, just keep picking away at them and you'll hit the clips that unhook that from the plastic clip. So then, now that I have all 4 of the wires undone, I'm just using some shrink tubing, heat shrink tubing, where I couldn't cut it in half just because it wasn't quite long enough, so I ended up using 4 pieces, which a bit of a waste, and I slid it over each side here. So when I do solder it, I can just slide them back over and heat shrink tube. That way I won't have any issues down the road, any water, anything, my feet won't hit it and it undo. So once you have the shrink tubing over the wires, you just connect each color. So quite simple, blue, white, red, and black. And I decided to do a bit of soldering as well just to make sure I had an extra strong connection. So I'm just getting the torch ready here, piece of solder. As you can see, be careful working on a wood surface because I did catch my bench on fire. Pretty easy process. Add a bit of water, put the fire out, no big deal. Solder them all together, and then I just slid the heat shrink tubing over all the connections to make sure they're strong and I won't have to worry about them popping off. So now that the tubing is on, I can just take a lighter and slowly heat up each piece to shrink it over the connection to make sure it's nice and snug. That way I don't have any issues down the road. Just do it to all 4 wires. 2 of them gave me a bit of a hard time, so I ended up having to use the side cutters just to cut the end because it did get heated up and it wouldn't slide over the connection. So I just cut it off, and then I had no issues sliding it over the wires, as you can see. Then you take the lighter, heat up the heat shrink tubing once again, make sure it has a nice snug fit for perfect connections. So again, I just had to cut the little piece because it got heated up, and it shrunk a little bit. So after that, it slid right over the connection, no problem. And heated up, and there we have it. All 4 wires are perfectly connected, no issues with them popping off down the road, and a little bit extra protection. So now that the harness is all connected to the trailer brake, I decided to take some electrical tape, and then I was concerned about the heat shrink tubing. I don't know why, figuring the wires would touch, so I did a little bit extra protection, probably unnecessary. I put a little bit extra tape on each of the wires, just so if they did ever touch, this will be an extra layer of protection so there's no spark or shorting out or any issues with the trailer brake as I'm hauling 6,000 pounds down the road. So again, once all 4 wires were taped up, I just wrapped the whole thing with a bit more electrical tape just to make sure that it's all clean and not spread it all underneath my dash. So now that the wiring harness is connected to the trailer brake, it's time to install it in the truck. I have a different video here just showing after it's connected to the plug underneath the dash. Just want to make sure it works. So nothing comes on because this is a very basic trailer brake. Only when you hit the brakes or the red slider button does the light come on. So again, I'm just trying to figure out how to use it. When I hit the brakes, the light comes on. Up and down arrow, again, only when the brakes are on. Pretty straightforward and pretty basic. So here it is the next day, during the daytime. You can see that gray plug at the top, that my truck had an already tow package on it, so the wiring harness I bought online just plugged right in, and now it's just to mount it to the bottom on my kick plate here. So pretty straightforward. Came with 2 screws, just screwed into the plastic. Just snug them up, make sure it's tight and won't go anywhere. And then the package came with 4 screws so I can adjust or mount the trailer brake. I may end up flipping it upside down. I didn't really like the way this looks, but for now I'll leave it as is. So again, just tightening the 4 screws on 2 on each side, and then this Hopkins trailer brake will be fully installed and ready to tow. So there it is. When you hit the brake, the light gets brighter as you hit the up arrow to apply more brake, and you hit the down arrow to get lighter to hit less brake. Once again, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. This is Northern Chris here. Hit that notification bell, and thanks so much for watching.